you get attached to a lineup, especially if the lineup does something cool. It's hard to move past that, but that's on the listener's end. On the artist's end of things, some relationships don't work anymore. People can't stay in the same place that they were at mentally forever. And just because it worked at one point in time doesn't mean it'll work now. And just because it was good at one point in time doesn't mean that it would be good now. Like, I think that fans who aren't on our side of it, they hear something that was really cool that was done and they want more of that. But what they don't understand is that even if the old lineup was together, you wouldn't be getting more of that. I guarantee you would not be getting more of that because that headspace is gone. That headspace is, it doesn't exist anymore. That was a moment in time.
What's up, everybody? It's Keefy at GhostCodeMag.com. I am once again, for the second time in just a few months, welcome back in Eyal from Daath to talk about the brand new Daath album. I am so pumped.
I'm stoked to be here. Thanks for having me again.
Stoked is one of my favorite words. Oh, I'm so, already, the excitement was already up here. And now that a few more months have passed, we were talking about URM Academy and a bunch of other stuff, death covers and incredible stuff like that. And the genesis of how this band got back together in the current lineup that recorded this record. The Deceivers, I got to finally hear it a bunch of times. It's magical. It's everything I hoped it would be beyond the singles. I was like, oh, the whole record is chef's kiss, man. What a job.
Thanks, dude. Thank you. Really appreciate it. We worked really hard on it.
So. Well, I know. We unpacked a lot of that the last time, sort of the writing and what everybody brought to the table. I mentioned off air, I just interviewed Krimh for Septic Flesh and their current tour that's about to kick off, I think, today in Los Angeles.
That's
tomorrow,
right, yeah.
Tomorrow in Los Angeles, technically.
They landed today.
Yeah. And he was just gushing. We were talking about Septic Flesh and touring and drums, but he was super stoked to talk about being on this record and what it was like to just come in and contribute to this. This is a band he was a fan of, which was important to him. And I love that about this.
That makes me happy to hear because, I feel like I said this last time, but that was, Krimh was really I had plan B and C, but I really wanted it to work out with Krimh. Like, I would have been really bummed out if it didn't, because he's like my favorite metal drummer. I think he's perfect. Like, he's absolutely perfect for what we do. So it was a big deal for us to get him in. Really, really big deal.
Yeah, you can really hear where he put a lot of these tracks over the top. He can definitely. Not showing off. He's super skilled and talented, and it's, he doesn't have to exert himself probably. I've seen him play live. It's like, guys, seems like he's moving like, it's like all those X-Men scenes with Quicksilver. We're all in slow motion, and that dude is going through time in a way I don't relate. I don't understand how.
Yeah, but what's great about that is regardless of the speed, he's one of those drummers. Like, I've always appreciated the drummers who know the right thing to do. Not just that they do things because they can. They do things because it's the right choice. You always have a million choices. There's only one right choice. And he's always making that right choice. And he doesn't make it about him. He makes it about the song. And I know that might sound cliche, but the music that we play requires really good drumming anyway. So, like, built into the DNA of it is going to be impressive drumming. And I think that, like, so it's just inherent. Like, it's fast, but like, he doesn't abuse that. He's always thinking like a writer, which is great.
And again, he's the Swiss Army guy, right? He plays on a bunch of records, not just his main bands. And he's got some other projects in the works also. So yeah, just what a wonderful pickup. And let's not listen. The other guys also came in and contributed. What a fan I am of Jesse. We talked about that last time. Big Binary Code fan, and Jesse's composing and orchestrations. You can, now that I've heard the whole record as a whole piece, you can really appreciate on multiple listens, little things. You hear what everybody, you can kind of guess where people put their own little stamp on, but the music is just, just such a great unified front as a composition too.
Thanks. And, I think we're going to be putting out the instrumental version of the record a few months from now. I mean, we love Sean, but I think his vocals are great. The music though is so layered, is so detailed that there's a lot of stuff that you just won't hear with the vocals on there that we think is worth hearing. It's like a whole other experience to hear it instrumentally. I'm just making sure that people know that I'm not shitting on Sean in any way. It's just the music lives instrumentally for us for a long time before vocals show up, and because we all think like composers, like we build it to stand alone. We don't build half-ass parts knowing that there's going to be vocals, even though there will be room for vocals. I think it stands up as an instrumental record. So we're going to be releasing that. And I think that people who are into it will, some will hate not having vocals because they need that anchor, but those who are into instrumental music, I think will appreciate it because there's a lot in there that at this point on the vocal version is just a texture, but with the vocals gone, like, not going to say it takes center stage, but it's much more prominent.
Totally fair. And by the way, yeah, Sean rules. Blabbermouth and Lamb Goat and Metal Sucks. Please don't run with this interview. I don't mind when they blow up a little bit on these websites, but like, please don't run with some bullshit. But yeah, also, Sean crushed it, and also there's probably some of my favorite Sean keyboard parts on you. He's absolutely going buck wild in the best possible way on some of these tracks. There's I think I wrote down the word whimsy instrumentals a few times. Like there's so much cool shit going on. These conversations and motifs between the instruments on the tracks doesn't detract from the song whatsoever. And you helped me with my segue because I was like, oh, I would love to hear this as a full instrumental. So now I'm stoked. I'll have to buy both, unfortunately for me.
Well, hopefully not, unfortunately. Hopefully.
No, I'm unfortunate for my wallet, but not for me. And then I'm a vinyl nerd, so it's going to be both probably vinyl. This is how we do here. But yeah, it seems like everybody had their own chance to stretch out. And let's talk about the other guys because like I don't want them overlooked. These are masters. What they brought in. I think probably longtime fans, people get married to the band they fell in love with. So any change, lineup, stylistic, producer, artwork, people like, I want that thing that I loved, and I think like this record is everything you love about this band. But also I think like everybody that came in had the care to keep the style and the sound intact, not just
Yeah, they're very respectful. I mean, part of why we picked them, like we're very careful with who we picked. And I understand totally as a fan, you get attached to a lineup, especially if the lineup does something cool. It's hard to move past that, but that's on the listener's end. On the artist's end of things, some relationships don't work anymore. People can't stay in the same place that they were at mentally forever. And just because it worked at one point in time doesn't mean it'll work now. And just because it was good at one point in time doesn't mean that it would be good now. Like, I think that fans who aren't on our side of it, they hear something that was really cool that was done and they want more of that. But what they don't understand is that even if the old lineup was together, you wouldn't be getting more of that. I guarantee you would not be getting more of that because that headspace is gone. That headspace is, it doesn't exist anymore. That was a moment in time. And so I wanted to assemble something that was the best possible representation of the current headspace. And I feel like last time I spoke to you must have been in June of last year of 23, because I feel like it was right around when URM was releasing the Jens Bogren Nishon course. So, and that came out in June of last year. So I don't remember if we spoke in May or June, but that time period. So Rafael Trujillo had not been made a member yet. I don't remember if we had started writing with him for the album yet or not, because some point around then, the song Ascension, the one that we just put out, I sent him a version because he had already played the No Rest No End solo. He'd done the Philosopher solo. I wanted him in the band, and it was like the final test really was just to see, can we write together? Like, can we actually do something on a song that isn't finished beyond a solo? So I sent him where I was at in Ascension, and just like, here's the tabs, here's the demo, here's some stems, do your thing, make it cooler. Like, I'm curious what you would do with this. And what he came back with was just great. And again, it was totally respectful to what I had written, but he made it better. He made it better, and made it better while keeping it true to what it was, while also making it his at the same time. It's like a lot of stuff to balance. And, from that point on, it was like, okay, well, let's let's get this let's get this guy in the band. So he's not only like one of the most gifted guitar players, like just as an instrumentalist, like on the planet. He's also a really, really good writer, like really, really good. He's a phenomenal musician. One of the reasons that I wanted him in also was he's really, really good at genres outside of metal. And I think that one of the things that people really appreciate about our solos on the older material was our previously guitar player is a fucking master at like jazz, gypsy jazz, and stuff outside of metal. I think what they appreciated was the way he would bring in those other styles. So with Rafael, you have a similar sort of thing where he's masterful at things at styles outside of metal, several of them. And it seemed to me like that would be not trying to like recreate what Emil did or something, but like bringing in someone who is like on that kind of level of being just like top tier metal player who is also top tier in other genres, but who also writes really well. He kind of checked off all the boxes, and he's also really cool. Kind of a no brainer with that guy, and he was down. So basically, the album was part written when we brought him in, like, No Rest, No End and stuff, and Purified by Vengeance and Sound Foray and stuff. I mean, those had been released. Ascension was like half written. Hex Unending was totally written. So, like my only regret was not bringing him in earlier. But the other tracks that he was involved in, like helping with, he did great things with. Really, really great. And he really elevated the tracks. So, I can't say enough about him. And people know him as a great guitar player, but I don't think they know just how great of a overall musician he is. So, and then you've got David Marvuglio, the bassist, who is also just a master. He's bass and metal it's an interesting topic because there's a lot of guitar players who move to bass. Some because they're not good enough for guitar, but not always. Some because they just like bass better. And bass is, some people don't understand bass, and they think of it as just like dumb guitar, but it's not it at all. Like I always thought of bass as like the secret weapon in a metal mix, or in a metal arrangement. And I've always wanted to have bassists who are actual bassists, not guitar players that aren't good at guitar or something like that, like a bassist. And that's what David is. Like he is a virtuoso bassist, but he's also got that thing that Krimh has, that he's got no problem playing the exact right part. Like no issue. He's not trying to impress you. He could, but that's not what he's trying to do. He's trying to respect the music and elevate the music. And so a lot of the stuff that he does is subtle. Like I didn't realize how cool a lot of it was until we got together in January and we were rehearsing some of the songs. And I was like, man, like I always thought it sounded cool, but I didn't realize how cool it was until we were in the same room, and just how solid and powerful he is. Like great. Like dude, all these guys are great.
No doubt. Flowers, flowers, flowers to everybody in the band, and people are gonna know how great Raphael, Dave, and of
Did
course
we talk
Jesse.
about Zuretti? I don't.
A little bit, because I'm like the president of this Ready fan club, but everybody knows that talking to me, and
Okay, cool.
you can hear his impact, and yeah, like absolutely. By the way, I'm gonna get off this call and go make a meme that says bass equals dumb guitar, because that's the comment of the day today. Just one last thing for you before we jump into a little track by track. This is our third interview in like 10, 11 years. And you know what I wanted to ask you? I don't think I've ever asked you, because we haven't had a record to talk about in a long time, is when you go to record yourself, when you go to put your tracks down, do you have to separate Eyal, the producer, engineer, ears guy, and just be a pure musician? Can you do that? Or you can't unhook those things, and it's like now you're through a new lens all the way since, whatever point in time you've been doing all this?
Well, I started producing in the late 90s or early 2000s, parallel to this band, or this band actually. Like I started producing because I got really, really depressed going to local studios. The price and the quality was just not there. So like that's always been part of it, but I'd rather not record myself, if that answers your question, because it's like too distracting to be in producer mindset. I want to be in guitar player mindset when recording. So if possible, I'll have someone else record me. On this, I had a John Douglas record all my rhythms. I did my own leads and cleans. Just it just didn't make sense to have him do that because it's so specific. It's not like rhythms where it's like, yeah, it's specific, but like it's meat and potatoes kind of stuff. But yeah, I don't want to track. I don't want to track that stuff. Like I get too focused on tracking and not enough on playing. And I play way better when I can just focus on playing. So yeah, it's hard to separate for sure.
Good answer. Thanks for unpacking that. I appreciate it. One last thing. We're going to move on to the track by track, but of course I have to have a pun. I had a vision of like the Daath guys bumping into Arch Enemy in a dark alley, and Slagle has to be like Mills Lane because like their last record was Deceivers, and you have the Deceivers and you're on Metal Blade. I don't know. I was like,
But they're on Century.
Oh, are they on Century? That's right. My
Yeah.
bad.
But there's
We
another
we can
link.
all
There's a
we can
link,
all be
though.
friends.
There's another link though that I know he's not in the band anymore, but we have Jeff Loomis on a track.
Right, of course.
So
he just left too.
Yeah, he when I asked him to play on it, he hadn't left yet. So he's got two Deceivers in his discography.
Discogs.com.
Yeah.
/Jeff_Loomis. I love Loomis is insane. We'll talk about all the guests also because I think that's really important to the record. So the Deceivers kicks off with No Rest No End. We've talked about that on the last call, but anything you want to share, feel free.
So this is a new mix. The album mix is completely new for all the songs that were released last year. So the versions that are up on Spotify now pre-album release are the original versions. The versions on the album, so I guess the ones you heard now are new mixes. Still done by Jens, and it was because the new mixes for the songs that the other songs, the other 6 songs, were just better than the original mixes. And so when you played them side by side, it just didn't. I mean, the original No Rest No End mix was cool, but the new one is just better. So first of all, it sounds a little different, and you can hear more of the details. And it's more bombastic. It's just better. But yeah, No Rest No End. It's a pretty meaningful song because it really was the song that basically solidified that this is happening, because I was looking for evidence that this was a good idea the whole time, because I don't like making bad decisions or wasting my time. But when you come out with something like No Rest No End, it's like all right, I should probably see this through. And so after having taken a break for a long time, it was very validating to write that, because it's also asking the question in my mind, like, do I still have it? And so without trying to brag or anything, it's just like, it is what it is. Like once that was written, it was like, the answer was yes. Like I knew it. And I think an album opener, it really matters. Like you really got to start the right way, I think. And I tried several different configurations, and there was this question in my mind of, well, No Rest No End has been out for a while. Is opening the album, is that going to ruin it? And then I was thinking, well, maybe for a few people, but over time, no one's going to remember that it came out a year before the album. They're just going to remember the album. And most people won't have heard Everything Goes Well. The majority of people haven't even heard the original No Rest No End. They will only know the album version and it as the album opener. And so it just seemed to me, for the long term, there's no more epic way for us to have started the album than with that one. So that's basically it. It's just the most epic opener we could think of.
Absolutely backed. By the way, I don't know how that, I should know this, but how does that work for streaming? Are they considered completely separate tracks, or are they the same track?
Unfortunately, they're completely separate, which is a bummer. Apparently, if we wanted it to all count the same, we would have had to have handed the whole record in back then. and we didn't have the whole record. So we could either take the version down and lose this version that's up there and only have the new one up starting from 0, or have the new one up starting from 0, but still have the old one that has its few 100,000 plays. So we're going to keep them both up. One's the single, one's the album.
There it is. Streaming's a strange fig. The second track is the amazing Hex Unending that we talked a little bit about earlier.
Yeah, Hex Unending. That was my first day ever owning an 8-string guitar. So I feel like I did talk about this, but it was really, really important with this reunion or restart or whatever you want to call it, that it didn't sound, we were, I guess, fishing from the same well, maybe from the same water source, but not just going back for the same ideas. And, everyone has their tendencies. Like, once you're used to something, you can't help it. That's just how it is. And I think that introducing something brand new is going to force you outside of your tendencies. And so it just seemed to me like that's a very low hanging fruit for forcing some innovation, is to just get an instrument that is totally foreign to me. So yeah, so that was the thinking, getting an 8. And then within the first 15 minutes of playing it, that song started, and I basically had version 1 written within 4 hours. And it was just one of those songs that if you hear the demo version, it's not that different than the final version. Like, yeah, Jesse added his thing, and like once Krimh got involved and it got a little better, then I went back and like refined things. But all in all, the version that's out is very close to the original, and it just kind of came out like finished. Is weird. It's one of those that happens every once in a while. I guess that's like the traditional cliche understanding of inspiration, but that's not the norm. But it's cool when it does happen. It was just one part after the next after the next. It just flowed perfectly, and like there was not much thought involved, and I describe that song as Demu meets Korn meets Muse meets Morbid Angel. It's like,
Fuck
if
yeah.
those 4 bands had a baby, that's that Hex Unending would be their love child. Basically.
Chef's kiss, no notes. That's so sick. The aforementioned single that is out today with the new video, Ascension, is everywhere right now, and a cool video it is, by the way.
Thanks. Yeah, so that video is done by Dave Brodsky, my good eye. Both videos, Hex Unending and Ascension. Both videos were shot in one day, one brutal day. But Ascension, like I said earlier, that's the song that we tried Rafael out on as a writer, and it was a song so see, that's the opposite of Hex Unending. That one took several months to come together, and it would be like another piece would be worked on, and then it would leave it for a while. And it was definitely very, very hard work on that, but I think it came out great. And there's some cool little details in it. Like, there's this tremolo guitar, not tremolo picking, even though there is tremolo picking. There's a tremolo guitar where the tremolo effect is set to the speed of the tremolo picking and the double kick. So when you hear these Morbid Angel style tremolo pick parts, and it sounds like there's this high pitch like pattern matching it, you're hearing a guitar with a tremolo set to that speed, that like right in sync with the double kick and the tremolo pick riff guitars. And it just creates this it's not very loud, but it's definitely in there. If you know it's in there and you hear it, that's what makes those tremolo parts sound just like a little different. And the tremolo effect is kind of throughout the whole song, and it kind of gives it like this much darker vibe. And I wanted to kind of have the tremolo be this through line, where you'll hear it in the choruses, like going slower. You'll hear it in the fast parts, like matching the double bass. Sometimes it's louder, sometimes it's quieter, but it's throughout the whole song. I think that's what, in addition to just the music being dark, but like it gives it like more of just like another worldly kind of feel. And I think that the clean part in the middle might be my favorite part on the record. I don't know. I could listen to it for 12 hours straight, but that whole middle section, like, there's a lot of it's interesting talking about this stuff intellectually, because like when it's coming together, like, it's not an intellectual thing. It's like it's a feel thing. It's like, it's an emotion thing, it's a feel thing, and it's like an intuition thing. But before I wrote that part, I knew that I wanted a middle section in a song that could stand up to the middle section in No Rest No End, because I didn't want it, that No Rest No End middle section, to be like some fluke. Like, we did it once, can't do it again. And so that's what I think Ascension is. I really, that's something we used to try to do, but never did it quite as well. So I really wanted to refine these like long, epic instrumental parts where it kind of just like evolves as it goes, and it's not really riff based. It's more just like classical music. So that I really like the middle section of Ascension. That dual lead, a lot of people think of it as a dual solo. I don't think of it as a dual solo. I think of it as just a melodic instrumental part where the guitars are playing high and kind of fast. So I guess you could think of it as a solo, but like it was inspired by the score to Casino Royale. There's in specific, there's a spot where it's in the parkour chase. There's one spot in particular where it's like a few minutes into it, the terrorist dude jumps the building and like lands on it on like a outdoor elevator and then leapfrogs off the elevator to another building. And Bond can't do that. He gets in the elevator and then he like hits it with a wrench and then it goes down. But anyhow, the music during that moment of the parkour chase inspired the kind of like the harmonic progression in the Ascension middle section. There's a lot of influences in there, but it's really just meant to be this like beautiful epic instrumental part that starts one way and takes you on a journey and lands you right back in the brutality, basically.
Right on. I love all the dynamics all over the record. It really helps the heavier parts be heavier, and obviously lets you stretch out a little bit musically. Daniel Craig, also a boss as James Bond. I'm gonna miss that
Oh
guy.
yeah.
Probably my favorite song on the record, or second favorite, 1A, 1B, is "With Ill Desire," the next track.
Nice.
Yeah, love that one.
So it's crazy, and it might be the most technical song on the record, but it's like encased in there's like a really catchy chorus in it, and it's like not the most like the complexity happens all within like the verse and the pre-chorus and like these traditional strong structure elements. So I think people might not realize it because it flows really well, but that song is nuts. And Raphael played two solos in it, one towards the beginning and one right at the end. And the one towards the beginning, like in where the second pre-chorus was going to be, like he was doing his thing trying to spice the song up, and he just sent me this solo and was like, I know there's supposed to be vocals here, but we don't have to use this. I just wanted to see what you thought. We're like, this is great. We're Yeah, now there's not going to be vocals in this part. So, and that's one thing that I think is cool about Sean and just cool about this band is as soon as something cool happens, we will throw our preconceived notion out the window. So originally that was supposed to be there for vocals, but gone. And so there's only one pre-chorus in the song. My favorite part of With Ill Desire, besides the chorus and its melody, is in the middle section. It's like this tribal black metal part. I don't know how to describe it other than that. It's like inspired by like Keep of Kalessin, and it's yeah, I just don't know how to describe it other than like fast tribal black metal or something. It's really cool. And Krimh does some really interesting stuff. Really interesting. I don't know. It's just this really almost primitive kind of beat, but it's not primitive because it's very complex. And he's doing this thing on the toms that's like already crazy. And then suddenly starts doing this double bass that we match with one of the guitars. And it's really hard to describe this part, but the part in the middle, people will know it when they hear it. I think that's to me is like the moment. There's a few moments in that song, but to me that's my favorite moment.
Word. What sometimes you get lucky and a song title is as good or better in some cases as the song itself. And the Silent Foray, I love that name. Just takes me mentally to so many places.
Thanks. Cold War. Yeah, that's about cold wars you have with people that never get resolved, and are brutal, but they also never like reach a peak or anything. It's just this constant like death by a thousand cuts. Silent Foray is kind of like a shout out to some of our older material. Like like the Futility album and the Hinderers. It has like a really epic outro, which is something we used to do a lot in the earlier days. Like really trippy, really out there. And I really wanted to bring that back and wanted to have a song that was very, very groove oriented, like a lot of that older material. And it felt like, excuse me, like a really good breather on the record, even though it's still a really slamming song. But that song just has a great flow to it. Like I said, it's a shout out to a lot of our older material and also my love for the 90s, basically. What is it you like about that song? Just out of curiosity.
The Silent Foray for sure is yeah, one of my. First of all, you described my whole life story there at the beginning. I didn't know if EL is going to help me co-write my tell-all memoir about being a grudge-holding prick. I feel that so deeply, but you know what attracts me to songs again is the whole picture. I listen, I take it in. I do very active listening that comes from my background. I had a minor in musicology in journalism school, and then I had a whole other career in marketing. So I'm one of those guys, and that's how I ended up doing Ghost Cult when the band thing wasn't happening anymore. But I think it's a track that I think it takes time to develop. It's the longest track on the record, so I think I take a thing in as a whole, and then I come back and I listen for parts, and then I just I take things apart and put them back together mentally, my ears, and I don't know, something about it. It was like, oh, I love how this song is put. There's no soft underbelly. I talk about that in my other podcast. Do records have a soft underbelly when they're not as good? But what I love, the deep cuts on here is as good as anything we've heard yet. And I don't think people are going to know that till it drops, but like there's no drop off. And I think like the strength of the record is actually on some of these middle tracks. Purified by Vengeance is coming up. Like these songs are so strong, and shows like the confidence I think you guys all had coming back.
Yeah, I mean, no filler. Basically, that's the idea. Yeah, Sound Furry also, a cool detail in that is the use of a theremin. There's a theremin, it pops in and out throughout the song, but you might not recognize it earlier in the song, but in the middle, it slows down into a very like not doomy, but a very vibey part where it's a clean guitar and a theremin are kind of doubling each other right before Per Nilsson's solo. But then later in the song, it goes into this weird, creepy electronic section, which is that whole middle section with the theremin. It's a rearrangement of that. It's the same music, same melodies, same harmonic movement. It's just completely reimagined, and that's something that we do quite a bit, is bring things back in different ways, like very different ways. And then the outro is just I don't know, I just love it.
Like, did you write the whole record and then offer the guest spots to people for the solos, or did you kind of write with them in mind?
I wrote with them in mind, for sure, because you don't want a guest solo to sound like a guest solo. It needs to sound like it's part of the song. And one of my big problems with features is when it just sounds like someone got glued onto a project. So with every one of the solos, I didn't know exactly where they would go, where I would have each guest, but I talked to each guest about like a few things. Like I asked each guest what their three proudest moments were with their own solos. Not necessarily the most popular, but like what are they most stoked on in their catalog? And then also we talked about what would be your dream scenario for getting something to solo over. I wrote with that in mind. So sometimes a section like that already existed. And sometimes it didn't. Like for instance, with Jeff Loomis, he's in Deserving of the Grave, and he told me that he only wants to do it if he has a substantial part because he's sick of doing guest solos, and he wants it to like mean something. Like it can't just be like just a guest solo. Like it's got to be something he can really dig his teeth into. Like a long solo or like the end of a song. And he requested something very dynamic that goes through a lot of chord changes, really allows him to develop something and create something epic. And so that's kind of what I gave him. And his solo is unbelievable. So I think like understanding who they are as musicians and what makes them tick is really, really important if you want it to sound organic, I guess.
And it's not just for clout. This band doesn't need to have, it has its own clout, doesn't need to chase clout and get a bunch of names. I know, though, I love those records, right? Oh, we just pulled out all the stops, asked all our friends to contribute. And I love stuff like that. But like, I like how methodical you just explained it. Thank you so much. Unwelcome Return is the next track. All kinds of meetings there.
Yeah. Interpret that how you will. But that one, and Welcome Return, is a song that we have a music video coming for it. It's going to be a very different music video than the other two. And there was an argument between that or Ascension as like uh the main music video. We decided to go with Ascension, but when Welcome Return was up there, I wanted to go with Ascension, but a lot of people prefer Unwelcome between the two. I just don't. But that song, but I still love it, and I love the clean intro. I think it's one of my favorite clean intros we've done. But the song is relentless. It's the most relentless song on the album, I think. And the beginning past the clean intro it was written on guitar, but it was written to be like an orchestral soup of darkness, basically. There's a lot of interwoven melodies happening all over it. And it's like a wall of sound. It's just a song that does not let up. And this is a detail. This is something that we did in a lot of songs. So the eight string Hex Unending is the only song that's eight strings start to finish. But lots of songs have like an one eight string part in them or like two eight string parts in them. And so in the middle of Unwelcome Return, right after Raphael's solo, which is great, it goes into this slamming eight string part where there are no other layers. It's just riff and vocal. And I found that using the eight string like that is really effective because like it really stands out when you only use it sparingly. But yeah, Unwelcome Return has, I think, some of the best riffs, like just like on the album. But like it's a very, very challenging song. And the orchestral parts, like if you were to remove the metal band, I think they would hold up as orchestral parts. It's very, very thick, very dense.
I concur. My classical music training synapses are all firing hearing all this. Vini, we're getting down to the wire. The next few tracks, Purified by Vengeance, already discussed, very gnarly, but anything else you want to share and add? Let's hear it.
Yeah, on the album mix, Mick Gordon is a lot louder. So the album mix. I was okay with the original, but I felt, and I told Jens this is not a secret. I felt like we kind of missed the mark on the intent of the song a little bit. And I realized this when I did the instrumental playthrough and had Mick Gordon and stuff louder and was like, this is what it's supposed to feel like. Like it's not, it's supposed to feel like I don't want to say industrial because like that brings a connotation to it, but it's supposed to have this rhythmic element to it and this creepiness that I feel like wasn't really there in the original. Whereas now with Mick Gordon louder, the creepiness and that rhythmic element is just way more pronounced. And so the album version to me is what the song is supposed to sound like. It's much more of a statement and it's just got more impact to it, I think, because the right elements are louder. Like there's more of a vibe to the whole song.
Very cool. Deserving of the Grave is the next to last track. We already talked a bit about that with Jeff.
Yeah, that's a song about good friends. So like that's got some of my favorite vocals on the record. It's a song that like it might be the darkest song on the record. I think it might be the darkest song on the record. It's got some real mind bending stuff in the middle, where we're playing with time, but when we play with time, we're not trying to do it like a gent band or something to try to be clever. Like when we do it, we're trying to do it in a way that will like make you feel unsettled. And so there's a few parts where like we'll start bending time and it starts to feel like your brain is going in like four directions, then it will snap right back in to like being right dead on. And it plays with that a lot, but really the song is just about a very, very dark vibe, very, very dark feel. And the vocals kind of take it there as well. And there's an octaver in it. So there are riffs where the electric the heavy distorted guitar drops out and the rhythm guitar becomes like this octaver thing, kind of like Muse would do. So like the chorus, if you listen to the chorus closely, there's no like distorted, like traditional metal distorted guitar. It's actually like a low octaver. And there's like some cool details like that throughout the song.
Muse does not get enough credit from serious guitar people and metal fans.
No.
They really should, though. They're super masterful musicians.
Oh yeah. Unbelievable.
And I love. I'm a fan. I'm a definite fan. And then of course, you know, they have a big arena spectacle type of thing. Popularity. Oh gosh, you got popular. Maybe you're not good anymore, or never were. I don't know. People are weird.
Yeah. The
Such a
popularity
weird
is
flex.
great. Well, the thing is, their live show is so good that, of course, it's like worthy of being that big. But strip that all away, the musicianship is just, it's terrifying.
It's how I feel about Tool. I know people want to dog me for how much I talk and love about Tool, and people are like, I'm not impressed. It's like, okay, you don't have to be. No one asked you to be. And then finally, where we're all going to wind up eventually, Into Forgotten Dirt.
Yep.
Is the final track.
It's my favorite track on the record, actually. So I only play one guitar solo on the album, and it's on that song towards the end. So all in all, it's my favorite song. I realize it's not like a single kind of song. It doesn't have three choruses. Well, it kind of does, but not really. But like on an emotional level, and like on a journey level, and like on a feel level, and then also like on a musicianship level, like all boxes checked off for me. It's my favorite song. And the ending, I think, like, I really, really love the final riff. There's this thing that happens where in the guitar does a riff that has some pauses, and those pauses, there's this really nasty synth, and the bass, they like will hit two notes by themselves. They just sound nasty. I don't know how to say it other than nasty. And then Krimh will like will respond to that on the china, and it's just this like pattern that goes across the instruments. The vocals there are the chorus, actually, so it's the same vocals as the other choruses, but the music is completely different. But I just think that it's like, just like we were saying earlier, the way you start an album matters a lot. I think the way you end an album matters a lot too, and I think it's the perfect ending. And I was thinking of songs like Blackwater Park, because the last song on a record often gets forgotten. And you take Blackwater Park, and that's a fan favorite, which says a lot because lots of times the last song is not a fan favorite. And I wanted to take something that I felt very strongly about and put it at the end, as opposed to just put like the weakest song at the end. Also, there's this middle section where Rafael really shines, where he does this like weird kind of like solo that's like doubled with a piano that's like just crazy sounding. It's pretty brilliant what he did. But like the song feels to me like very trippy and beautiful and like heavy and slamming first half, and then it's like going to war in the second half and then winning it at the end, basically.
What a great analogy and a great way to sum up the whole album. Thanks for unpacking all that. That was a treat. And just as we go, and I'll give you back your day. What else can we look forward to? You said another music video. Anything else to promote the record? Obviously, so much going on to unpack when you have your new record coming out.
Well, I mean, yeah, there will be the instrumental version of the album. We will tour at some point, and we're going to be putting out more stuff in conjunction with the album. Obviously, budget permitting and reality permitting, but we're going to keep on. If we can make yet another video past this third one, we'll make another one. So we're going to just keep on putting stuff out for it. And I think that what people can look forward to is hopefully the album in and of itself is enough. But for even if it's not, I think the instrumental version will help a lot, as well as some of the other stuff that we have that we're kind of cooking up right now. We're cooking up some versions I don't want to mention yet, because I don't know if they're going to happen. And and so bad juju to talk about them as if they're real, but there's some cool stuff, and I'm already working on the next record.
Amazing. I'm so stoked to hear it. Stoked at the beginning and stoked at the end. Eyal, man, thank you so much for always being generous with your time and kind to Ghost Cult. I really appreciate you. Thank you for this record. We're going to link everything in the description, just the beginning of all our Daath content coming up before the release. But thank you so much for your time today, man.
Thank you. Really appreciate it, man. Thank you very much.
Always. We'll see you soon. Thanks for hanging with Ghost Cult.
Anytime. Have a good one.
Peace.